This character fears water, blends into the shadows like a whisper, and can end a fight before it even starts, if he catches you off guard. Welcome to part 2 of my deep dive series on the 5 pre-made characters from the Daggerheart Quickstart adventure, Sablewood Messengers. I'm walking through each one of the pre-generated characters, what they can do, how their special abilities work, and what makes them so much fun to play. Today, we're meeting Barnacle, the Underborne Ribbet Rogue. He's slippery, secretive, and absolutely deadly when he catches enemies unaware. His sneak attack ability turns positioning into power, and his Cloaked feature allows him to vanish like a puff of smoke, only to come back and strike when no one's looking. If you like tactical movement and high-risk, high-reward gameplay, Barnacle's your frog. Just don't ask him to swim. Trust me on this one. Welcome back, adventurers. In this episode of Kristen's Epic Adventures, we're going over Barnacle the Underborne Ribbet Rogue, one of the pre-made characters in the Daggerheart Quickstart adventure, Sablewood Messengers. Now, this adventure is completely free to play, and the characters are all completely free to access as well, whether it's the downloadable PDF guide or over on Demiplane. I'm going to be going over some of Barnacle's features, and we're going to talk about these cards that come with the Daggerheart core rulebook that are just a great addition to this game system. These cards allow you to have all the special abilities on an individual card with some really cool artwork laid out right next to you on the table, next to your character sheet, whether it's on paper or on a computer. They just have some amazing artwork on them. And let's start out with the fact that Barnacle is a ribbet. Now, this is one of the ancestries in Daggerheart. He's a little frog person. He's super cute. And the ribbet card here has a little bit of flavor text on it. First, it says, ribbets resemble anthropomorphic frogs with protruding eyes and webbed hands and feet. And he has a couple of abilities that his Ancestry of Ribbet give him on this card. It has amphibious. You can breathe and move naturally underwater. And he has a long tongue. Now, it says you can use your long tongue to grab things within close range. Let me quickly remind you that there's a lot of ranges involved in Daggerheart, and there's only a few of them. Instead of measuring things by feet, in Daggerheart we have melee range, which is right next to you, then very close range, far, and very far. So this says your tongue can grab onto things within close range. So that's everything from melee, very close, and close. Anything within those 3 ranges, Barnacle can grab onto with his long tongue. It also says you can mark a stress to use your tongue as a finesse close weapon. Yes, folks, as a ribbet, as Barnacle, you are smacking people with your tongue as a weapon. This is fantastic. I ran this Quickstart adventure for my group, and our ribbet literally did in one of the enemies and took him out from close range with a smack upside the head with his long tongue. And it was great to roleplay. That is because the long tongue deals D12 physical damage using your proficiency. So what that means is you're going to check your proficiency level on your character sheet. And for the starter set, everyone's going to be at proficiency level 1. I believe when you go up to level 2, you get the second level of proficiency if you've chosen it as one of your level ups. Okay, so you're going to get a D12 to roll damage if you mark a stress to use your tongue as a close weapon. That's fantastic. One thing now that I look at this, I'm a little confused about. Do you just mark the stress and it automatically hits and you just do the damage? Or do you mark a stress to be able to use it as a close weapon and still have to roll to hit? I think you still have to roll to hit because it literally says a finesse close weapon. So you are choosing to make a finesse roll, like an attack with finesse. Okay, so that's how I take it. Is that normally any finesse weapon, you would just roll with finesse to see if it hits, but you have to spend a stress if you want to do it with your tongue. And it does D12. That's crazy. Amazing ability for ribbets. Okay, the next thing about Barnacle this ribbet is that he is Underborne for his community. So let me just grab the Underborne card here. Also some amazing artwork on there. So when someone is Underborne, it says being a part of an Underborne community means you're from a subterranean society. That's really cool. They have this ability called low light living. It says when you're in an area with low light or heavy shadow, you have advantage on rolls to hide, investigate, or perceive details within that area. This community ability works amazingly well with the fact that this ribbet, Barnacle, is a rogue, because rogues are always trying to hide so that they can get off their sneak attack. So anytime this character wants to try to hide in the shadows, they're going to get advantage on the rolls to do that simply because they're from an Underborne community. So cool. Okay. So that is his ancestry and his community. Next, let's look at his subclass. Now, the subclass that was chosen for the Quickstart guide is called Nightwalker. The rogue has 2 different subclasses to choose from, but Barnacle here is the Nightwalker subclass. Now, I have 3 cards here, but we only need 1 for the Quickstart guide, the Foundation card. That's because if you continue to use these characters to play even more, and you want to continue your adventures with them, and then they eventually level up, as you go into the second tier of levels, you have the option of choosing the Specialization card for the Nightwalker. And if you get up into tier 3, if you choose to, you can take the Mastery card. And we're going to go over what all 3 of those do. But for this Quick Start level 1 adventure, Barnacle here gets the Foundation card for a Nightwalker rogue. And it tells you right under Nightwalker that the spellcasting trait for a rogue is Finesse. That's why Barnacle here has his highest modifier in Finesse. In Daggerheart, you don't roll for your different abilities and then get 6 different large scores and decide where you want to put them and then look up what modifier that is like D&D. They literally make it easier by just giving you the modifiers. Everybody gets a -1, 2 zeros, 2 +1s, and a +2 that you can put in any of the 6 abilities between agility, strength, finesse, instinct, presence, and knowledge. For the pre-made characters here, they've already distributed those. I really suggest that you stick with those when you're playing this because they've put it in the right places to kind of go along with the story and make the characters' abilities like do their best. So that's why Barnacle here has his +2 in finesse, because a rogue relies very heavily on finesse. So it tells you on his subclass card that his spellcasting trait is finesse. So that means anytime a card tells you to make a spellcasting roll, you're going to make sure you add your finesse modifier to the roll, okay? So Barnacle has this ability called Shadow Stepper. This is so cool. When I played an Intro to Daggerheart, I played Barnacle, and I was able to do this ability. It's really neat. It says you can move from shadow to shadow. When you move into an area of darkness or a shadow cast by another creature or object, you can mark a stress to disappear from where you are and reappear inside another shadow within far range. So I think, did we mention this already? I think we did. Yes, about the attack, about using a tongue to attack, the different ranges, right? Melee is right next to you. Very close, close, far, very far. So all the way up to far. So that's melee, very close, close, far. All those ranges away. This Shadow Stepper can literally disappear into a shadow and reappear in another shadow that's up to far away for only spending 1 stress. This is amazing. I used it several times in my adventure, and when I ran this Quick Start adventure for my group, our Barnacle used it as well, and it's really cool. When you reappear inside the other shadow, you are considered Cloaked. And now Cloaked is a special ability that says anytime you could be hidden, right, which is like you've succeeded at trying to hide, you're instead cloaked. So in addition to the benefits of being hidden, While you're cloaked, you remain unseen if you are stationary when an adversary moves to where they would normally see you. But after you make an attack or end a move within line of sight, you're no longer cloaked. So all that means is if you're cloaked and you stand perfectly still and don't move, an adversary can't see you at all, okay? This is going to be really vital to the sneak attack that this rogue has. So that is the foundation ability of a Nightwalker Rogue, right? This is the subclass. Let's just go over real quick. If you decided to keep playing Barnacle after this adventure was over and you level up into the next tier, you have different options you can take for leveling up. One of those options is to choose the specialization card. So for a Nightwalker Rogue, if you go with specialization, you get the ability Dark Cloud. Make a spellcast roll with a difficulty of 15. Now remember, that means we're going to take our hope die, a 12-sided die, and our fear die, another 12-sided die that looks completely different so that we can tell them apart. Roll them, and we're going to add our spellcasting ability modifier, which is finesse. Give the grand total with whichever one is higher, hope or fear, to the DM, and we need to get a 15 or higher. So it says, on a success, you create a temporary dark cloud that covers any area within close range. Anyone in this cloud can't see outside of it, and anyone outside of it can't see in. Is this sounding familiar? Like the darkness spell in D&D? You're considered cloaked from any adversary from who the cloud blocks line of sight. So it brings that cloaked ability back in, right? So you could literally make this cloud and just stand right in the edge of it and be cloaked so that you could get like your sneak attack off. This is great. It also has another feature called Adrenaline. While you're vulnerable, you get to add your level to your damage rolls. Now, being vulnerable in Daggerheart means that anybody who attacks you gets advantage. All right, so if the DM has said that something has made you vulnerable, or a adversary attacked you and they have a special ability that makes you vulnerable, and you have this vulnerable condition, you have this vulnerable condition on you, anybody who attacks you has advantage, right? Advantage in Daggerheart means that you add a d6 to your hope and fear dice. So now you're rolling 3 dice. Your 12-sided hope, your 12-sided fear, and a d6, okay? And when it's advantage, you add the d6. When it's disadvantage, you subtract the d6. Super easy. This is basically based on when someone's attacking you and you're vulnerable. So someone attacking you is going to get advantage against you because you have this vulnerable condition. You get to add your level to your damage rolls. So obviously, when you're level 1, you get to add 1 more damage. When you're level 2, you get to add 2 more damage, and so on and so on. That's really cool because your adrenaline is pumping. That's why that one's called Adrenaline. Very cool. And that's if you take that specialization feature card as part of a level up. Then if you go up to the 3rd tier eventually, which is a few more levels up, or maybe it's, 3 or 4 more levels up, you can take the Mastery card if you choose. For a Nightwalker Rogue with Mastery, you get Fleeting Shadow. Gain a permanent +1 bonus to your evasion. Evasion in this game is basically your AC, like D&D was. It's what the DM needs to roll your evasion or higher to hit you. So it's like giving you a +1 bonus to your armor class. Just they call it evasion. It's your ability to evade an attack, okay? So getting +1 to that's really good. And it now says your Shadow Stepper that you got at your first foundation card now works up to very far range. Now, if you want to spend a stress to disappear into one shadow and reappear in another, you can do it very far range. So it works even further away. Then you get a new one called Vanishing Act. Mark a stress to become cloaked at any time, right? Previously, when you disappeared through the shadows and reappeared in another shadow, you came out cloaked, right? But now you can do it just by spending a stress. It's called Vanishing Act. It's pretty cool. You automatically clear the restrained condition if you have it. That sounds awesome. And you remain cloaked in this way until you roll with fear or until your next rest, which would be either a long or a short, either one of those. So that's pretty awesome. But that's up at the mastery level. So again, these extra ones are only if you decide to keep playing this character from the Quickstart guide even further, which is entirely possible with this guide because there is an extra free document that you can get all about the Sablewood that the DM could use as like an environment, or it's almost like a little mini campaign frame, if you will, that's not in the hardcover book. So you could keep playing with these characters. You could keep playing with them in any other campaign frame that you want, but you could also keep playing with them in the Sablewood, which is really cool. But at our level 1 Barnacle, you are going to get the Nightwalker Foundation, which is just the shadow stepping, basic shadow stepping. Mark a stress, disappear into one shadow, reappear from another, automatically cloaked. It's awesome. Very cool. So speaking of that, let's go over this sneak attack. So there's no card for the sneak attack. It's actually just on the character sheet. There are some really pretty basic abilities that they didn't end up making a card for. They just are in the text on the character sheet, but they're pretty easy to understand. They're not too wordy, and there's only 1 or 2 for each character. So they just included them in the character sheet. So we all know Rogue's thing is their sneak attack, right? And in D&D, you have to have advantage on the roll somehow, or an ally has to be engaged with your target somehow for you to pull off a sneak attack. Well, in Daggerheart, it says as long as you're cloaked or an ally is within melee of your target, right? So that's still engaged because melee is like the very next square, or if we're not talking squares, right next to somebody. But it also includes if you're cloaked, which is, remember, that's the hiding, successful hiding, but while you don't move, the adversary can't see you at all. Let's see, it says, when you succeed on an attack, so you obviously have to succeed, while cloaked or while an ally is within melee range of your target, add a number of d6s equal to your tier. Now, at level 1, you're tier 1, so your sneak attack die is 1d6, okay? That you're going to add to your regular damage of whatever weapon you're using. And Barnacle here, he comes with a dagger that does 1d8 plus 1 physical damage. Soon as you get to tier 2, which is level 2 through 4, you get 2d6. When you get up to tier 3, which is levels 5 through 7, you get 3d6 because it's tier 3. And at tier 4, you get 4d6. That's levels 8 through 10. So super easy to understand. Scales really kind of quick for levels 1 and 2. And it's pretty easy to understand. It's right there on the character sheet in the lower corner. Now, this Ribbet has a dagger. He is a rogue. And it tells you right here on the character sheet that it is a finesse melee weapon. So you have to be within melee range to use it. And like I said, it does 1d8 plus 1 physical damage. Now, you may remember that D&D, it'll have physical damage, what they just call regular damage, but you have fire damage and ice damage and poison damage and all sorts of different kinds of damages. Daggerheart just has physical and magical. There is a direct damage that's a little different. It just means, it just mechanically works slightly different, which we're not going to get into in this video. But all you have to remember is physical or magical. That's all the DM needs to know. You say, you roll your d8, add 1, you say, I do 6 physical damage, that's it. But if you're doing sneak attack, you're at this, in the Quickstart adventure, you're going to be adding that 1d6 as well. So awesome. Love rogues. Okay, next let's go over the domain cards that Barnacle has. The rogue here has 2 different domains in Daggerheart that it has decks of cards to choose from. The Midnight domain and the Grace domain. These pre-generated characters already have 2 cards chosen for you, and I believe they all have 1 from each domain. If you're building your own, you can pick 2 from the same. It doesn't matter. You have both decks available to get out like all the level 1 cards and choose whichever one you want. But I highly suggest that you stick to whatever's already on the pre-made character for the pre-made adventure, because there's a reason they chose those. They tend to work really well with the story because it's just a 3 to 5-ish hour one-shot. You don't want to go through all this trouble of picking an ability that sounds really cool and then there's no opportunity to use it in the in the Quickstart. So they try to give the characters things that are going to be appropriate for this adventure. You can always do another adventure and make your own character from scratch, but these work really well with this adventure. So all of your midnight cards are black coated, right? They have a little black banner up in this corner, the little ability word under here is black coated, and then grace is this pink one. So it's got the little symbol for the grace domain up here, and everything's in pink. So for the midnight domain, this rogue has an ability called pick and pull, and it says you have advantage on action rolls to pick non-magical locks, disarm non-magical traps, or steal items from a target, whether it's by stealth or by force. So there's your lock-picking rogue. Very cool. You're getting advantage on those. As long as they're non-magical, you're going to get advantage to do that because you are better at that than anybody else as a rogue. Now, the other ability that they have from the grace domain is called inspirational words. Let me read this first and we'll talk about it. Your speech is imbued with power. After a long rest, place a number of tokens on this card equal to your presence. When you speak with an ally, you can spend a token from the card to give them one of the following benefits. The ally clears a stress, the ally clears a hit point, or the ally gains a hope. When you take a long rest, clear all unspent tokens. Okay. So the reason I want to talk about this is inspirational words. You may remember something very similar from D&D, that like giving somebody an inspiration die is kind of a bard thing. In Daggerheart, you have your domains, and each domain is shared by 2 different classes. And in Daggerheart, both the bard and the rogue share the grace domain. That's why rogues have the ability to choose inspirational words. So imagine wanting to play the type of character that kind of does these inspirational speeches to the party, and mechanically they get a benefit, but you're stuck with being a bard and you don't really want to be a bard. Over here, you can have inspirational words as a rogue, which I think really does make sense. I mean, a rogue is kind of like sneaky and this one's also in the Underborne. He came from this subterranean society, and he probably just also has a way with words. You know what I mean? I thought it was really interesting. So when it talks about putting a number of tokens on this card equal to your presence, presence is not a rogue's best ability, finesse is. So for the Quickstart guide here, you're going to be putting 1 token on this card, which means you essentially get 1 use of it per long rest, okay? The token is just on there to track whether or not you've done it. If you're using demiplane, there's going to be a checkbox. But if you're physically using the cards, physically at the table, you're going to want to get some type of a token. If you have the limited edition set, you've got that beautiful bag of acrylic tokens in all different colors, and you can grab all the tokens of a color to use for this. But if you don't have that, you can certainly use like some change, like a bunch of pennies, some beans, some M&Ms, Tic Tacs, I don't know, whatever you want to use. Pennies, buttons. Buttons would be a good one. Any kind of little thing that you want to use as the token. And for this quick start, you only need 1 of them. So just go grab 1 small little object. It can be your pen cap, whatever, honestly. You're putting a token on here to keep track of whether you've used the ability or not, because you only get 1 per long rest, okay? And at the end of a long rest, any that you haven't used get cleared away, all right? They don't stack on top of each other is what they're saying. So again, when you choose to spend that token, you can give an ally one of these things. Clear a stress box, clear a hit point box, gain a hope. That's a really good one for this bard. So those are the cards that this Ribbet Barnacle here is essentially going to have in his loadout. So that's a term that Daggerheart uses to talk about the domain cards that you have down here on the table in front of you by your character sheet, whether the character sheet's on your computer or on the piece of paper. The domain cards you have down, which are just your ability cards. You've got your Ancestry, your Community, your Subclass are kind of separate, but you have basically 5 slots that you can have for cards in your loadout. As soon as you pick an additional one of those cards now has to go in your vault. So you're going to want to keep those separate. Maybe one side of you has your loadout cards, and maybe anything that's been moved to the vault is on the other side of you. Maybe you've just flipped it over and moved it off to the side, whatever. But anything that has been moved to the vault is essentially taken out of play, but it's not like your character forgot to use it or anything. You may remember D&D, if you have not prepared a spell that day, you don't get to use it. If you're the type of character that has to prepare a spell. I don't know how many times I've gotten into a situation in a D&D game where I was like, man, I did not prepare that spell today, and this would have been a great opportunity to use it. In Daggerheart, your ability cards here, whether they're spells or not, because these are not spells for the rogue here, they're just abilities. Up in the corner, right, you've got this little banner of a certain color, and the color represents the domain. The number represents the level. This is a 1, so this is a first level domain card, and the little symbol is what domain it's from, so this little butterfly means grace. This side of the card has a black circle with a lightning bolt and a number, or a number and a lightning bolt, technically. The lightning bolt represents stress, and the number is how much stress you need to pay to pull it from your vault back into your loadout. And you can spend that stress as long as you have it available to spend at any time, even during combat. So as long as you have room for another card in your loadout, you can spend the stress, pull it back, and have it available again. Provided you still only have 5 over here. You still can't go over the 5. So that's, if you're wondering what all these different things are. You notice this pick and pull ability actually costs 0. That one's so basic for a rogue. So let's go over some of the other abilities that Barnacle the Underborne Ribbet Rogue here has. Looking through his stats, they have decided to put the +2 modifier in his finesse ability. Obviously, rogues need to have a very high finesse modifier. They're using finesse weapons. It's how they get their sneak attack off and things like that. Then they have decided to put the 2 +1s in agility and presence. Agility is used for things like sprinting, leaping, maneuvering. Very handy for a rogue. And presence works on things like charm, perform, and deceive. Now, charm and perform, that sounds rather bardish, doesn't it? But deceive sounds typical of a rogue as well. But those are all based on presence rolls. Because remember, our rogue is actually sharing a domain with the bard. So it kind of makes sense. Then they have their 2 0 modifiers in instinct and knowledge. Now, instinct affects perceiving, sensing, and navigating. Knowledge affects recall, analyzing, and comprehending. And then you've got a -1, right? Everybody's got to have a dump stat somewhere. For the rogue, the -1 goes in the strength. That's for using things like smashing, grabbing, grappling. This is the reason why he has a finesse weapon like a dagger, because he's not going to be hauling a battle axe or anything like that. Okay? Now, this ribbet has an evasion of 13. Evasion in this game is the same as your armor class. It's basically the DM needs to roll your evasion or higher to hit you. So as long as they roll under it, they miss. There is a starting evasion on each of these character sheets. You'll see for Barnacle, it says his evasion actually started at 12. Anytime you build a rogue, their evasion starts at 12 unless you have something that modifies it. Having a 13, Barnacle must have something that's modifying it. You will see that he has this gambeson armor down under his armor section, and it has a feature called flexible, which gives him +1 to evasion. So that is why he has a 13 evasion. Also, talking about armor, you will see that it has base thresholds of 5 and 11 and a base score of 3. But what do these things mean? Okay, a base score of 3 means that he has 3 armor slots. These are basically instances to use your armor to reduce the amount of damage coming in, okay? You can kind of look at it as your armor slowly getting damaged as you take hits until that damage finally just goes through to you even more, right? So having a base score of 3 means he has 3 armor slots, okay? Then his base thresholds for armor, for this type of armor, is 5 and 11. You'll notice under the damage and health section, there is kind of like a little scale. And it has a minor damage area, and then a number, major damage, and then a number, and then severe. And for this armor, it normally would be 5 and 11, but you get to add your proficiency, or not your proficiency, your level. You add your level to your armor. So that's why his thresholds, I lost the word for a second, are marked off as 6 and 12 instead of 5 or 11. I hope that makes sense. What this means is if he takes damage up to 5, it only costs him 1 hit point. If you hit the threshold of 6 up to 11, he takes 2 hit points. If you meet the threshold of 12 and higher than that, he takes 3 hit points because this is severe damage. They are called minor damage, major damage, severe damage. There is an optional rule that your DM may decide to play with. That is, if you ever take in as much damage as double your severe damage thresholds, which for Barnacle would be 12 doubled into 24, you take 4 hit points of damage. This is why you don't have that many hit points available to begin with, because all damage is put in this little threshold scale to be translated into how many actual hit points of damage you're going to take. You'll see right under that, Barnacle only starts, and I think everybody in this, I can't remember if everybody in this Quickstart has the same amount of hit points, but Barnacle only starts with 6 slots. And you're going to fill the slots up as you take damage. And if you fill all of them up to the full 6 hit points, poor Barnacle is no more, okay? This is why you may want to choose, as you play the game, to spend armor slots to reduce the damage down to the next threshold. If he has taken severe damage, which would mark 3 hit points, he can spend an armor slot, and you like fill in the little shield or mark it off on demiplane, and it reduces it to major damage so that you only take 2. If you take 2 in the major damage, you can spend a slot to reduce it down to minor damage and only take 1. Each time you're hit, you can only spend 1 armor slot. You can't spend multiple to reduce it down further unless you have a special ability. You'll see this in Marisha's character in the Age of Umbra series. I can't remember what type of character she is off the top of my head. If you do know what it is, put it down below for everybody. But she does have that ability that allows her to mark off multiple armor slots to reduce damage even more. But our Ribbet Rogue cannot do that. Barnacle cannot. You can just mark off 1 to reduce it by 1. Let's see. What else do we need to talk about here? Experience. Barnacle has 2 experiences called They Don't See Me Coming and Strike a Deal. Now, what these experiences are, I love this part of Daggerheart. They are basically past experiences given a slightly vague, but not too vague, but not too specific name that can be applied to current situations to get a bonus on the roll. For level 1 characters, experiences give you a +2 bonus. You have to spend 1 hope to use them. So, open to interpretation, anytime Barnacle's player thinks that they see the opportunity to use an experience called They Don't See Me Coming, probably would work great for those times when he's jumping from shadow to shadow and cloaked or getting off his sneak attack. You can spend a hope to add a +2 bonus to your roll. Now, the first time you do it, maybe your DM asks you to explain what that past experience looks like in like a little flashback or something. Great role-playing opportunities with this. His other experience is called Strike a Deal. Probably also something really cool for a rogue that has those kind of bardic persuasion tendencies as well. And you can see there's more lines because as characters level up, you can actually get more experiences. There's also the opportunities to change those +2s into like +3s or +4s per experience as well. But that's what those are all about. Now, every character also has a hope feature. So all of these characters under their little hope scale there, where you fill in the spots to mark off how many hope you have, there is a feature for them. And the rogue's hope ability is called Rogue's Dodge, right? This makes sense. Remember, our D&D rogue characters have a dodge ability. They can use a bonus action to dodge, I believe. Anybody can dodge, but a rogue can do it as a bonus action in D&D. In Daggerheart, this is how the rogue's dodge work. You spend 3 hope, and to the best of my knowledge, all these little hope abilities I think are all 3. Spend 3. Get +2 bonus to your evasion until the next time an attack succeeds against you. Otherwise, this bonus lasts until your next rest. So it's going to, what you're doing is you're spending 3 hope to bump his evasion from 13 to 15. That's really good because that means the DM has to roll 15 or higher on a d20 to land a hit on Barnacle. Daggerheart is what is considered an asymmetrical gaming system. The players are using 2d12s, right? Your hope and your fear dice. This means there's a possible total of 24 because you could get 2 12s. Well, the DM is still rolling a d20, not 2d12s. So they can only roll up to 20, which really kind of tilts the narrative in the range of the players, like just tilts it towards the side of the players a little bit. It's a heroic game. We're supposed to be heroes. It kind of gives you a little bit more opportunity to be a hero. This doesn't mean that it's all fun and games and you're going to win everything all the time, because the DM has fear tokens that they can spend, right? So that kind of helps balance that out as well. But remember, the DM is only rolling a d20, so it only goes up to 20. Now, the adversaries do have an attack bonus, so they'll be adding that on a little bit. But if Barnacle decides to spend 3 hope to do Rogue's Dodge, now their evasion is suddenly 15, and they're even harder to hit. And that lasts until someone actually succeeds at hitting them at the 15. Or they do, it says next rest. Doesn't specify that it has to be a long, so it's long or short. It just says the next rest, so a rest of any type. Okay? And don't forget, you're going to be constantly getting more hope all the time. Every time you roll the dice and the hope die is higher, you're getting more hope. So there's no need to stockpile it. There's no need to like save it up for a rainy day to do something crazy. You're constantly going to be spend a little hope, get some hope back. Spend a little hope, get some hope back, as long as you're rolling with hope higher, right? Very cool. Let's see, what else do we have on here? Barnacle also has a minor stamina potion. That actually clears 1d4 stress. I believe Marlowe, the sorcerer, also has the same. I previously did a Marlowe video, and you can find that right up here. Right up here? I think it's this side. Right up here. If you haven't watched that one yet, go check that out. And let's see, that might be about it for Barnacle. We went over his Underborne community. We went over his ribbet, being a ribbet. We went over the fact that he has the Nightwalker subclass. We went over his 2 domain cards. Next week's video is going to be about the Highborn Human Warrior. If you found this video helpful, you're going to want to make sure you hit the like button. It helps more people find us. It grows the community here. Make sure you share this out to anybody who's going to be playing the Daggerheart Quickstart guide, the Quickstart adventure. If all things tabletop role-playing are really your thing and you're interested in breaking down the rules, tips, tricks, unboxings, and reviews, you're going to want to make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. And go ahead and hit that notification bell as well, because that way you're going to know when these future videos come out. You're going to get notified of those right away. Now, Barnacle may have disappeared into the shadows, but the rest of the Sablewood Messengers are just getting started. Next up is Garrick, a charming warrior with a violent past and a smile that can kill, and might have. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next Daggerheart Quickstart adventure character breakdown. And let me know in the comments below, would you trust Barnacle to have your back? Or would you keep an eye on the shadows? Next, you're going to want to watch one of the videos on the next screen. Go ahead and click on that and I'll meet you there.